Hello YouTube, this is Stephen with On My Way to Fire, a channel about early retirement and all things investing. And in today's video topic, I want to talk about buying the dip. All right guys, so if you've been watching the market here for the last couple of weeks, really ever since SpaceX IPO launched, leading into the earnings recently, we've seen the market go down a bit, mainly due to the tech sector selling off and what they're calling a market rotation as more money goes into healthcare and consumer staple products. But, I wanted to cover a overall topic here, buying the dip when you try to put money in the market when stocks are selling off. These are just some ways that I look at it from personal experience. Again, not investment advice, but maybe you can get something from this and apply it to your own trading. So mainly what I'm focusing on here is buying in a personal trading account, whether it be a Roth IRA or a taxable brokerage. This is where you have the options to buy single stocks. And again, this could also apply to index funds as well. But for the way I'm approaching it, we're going to be talking about single stocks here. So basically, number one, the way I look at it is set a budget. So every week I have various stocks that pay dividends, and then I have twice a month where I'm going to get my paycheck. So I set aside a portion of money to put money into stocks that I think that are down, that long term I have conviction on, that I want to hold for a really long time. So I'm not doing this generally on stuff that I want to flip. If it's a short-term trade, I'll do that in the Roth IRA and I'll look to get in and get out. But I'm talking here about long-term holds. And so for the most part, on main companies that I'm buying, there's going to be a dividend. If it's a tech stock, there may not be a dividend. But I want to factor all these things into my way of thinking of how I want to buy on the dip. So let's say this week I have $100 to spend. I'm going to look to see what are my top two stocks that I really want to buy. And depending on the stock price, I can either buy a whole share or I may only be able to buy a partial share. But either way, I'm going to try to put that money to work, and that's going to be the goal for the week. So set the budget and set a schedule. And so maybe for you, you can put $50 a month in, something like that. Maybe you can also time it with your paychecks and put in an extra $25 or $50 per paycheck into a taxable account and, start building positions in stocks. But either way, plan it out ahead of time and get that money set aside. Okay, number two. I look for great companies that are basically best in class. So that would be like your Apple, Nvidia, those kind of companies that are the best companies out there, and they may experience turbulence. It's crazy. They have consistent earnings, they make a bunch of money, but what's the forecast? And that's ultimately what the stock market's about. It's looking for forward guidance on how much they're going to earn in the future. So, they can go out of favor, and that's what's happening right now with Nvidia. They are selling off, and I am buying. And again, not investment advice, but I pace myself and I put somewhere between $30 and $50 a week into Nvidia when I find the price is low enough. Okay, but it could be a dividend stock too. It could be like a Pfizer or Bristol Myers for pharmaceutical. Those companies pay dividends, and for the most part, they've been down for a while. Bristol Myers has had a nice little comeback in the last year, but Pfizer is actually still down more or less, and not really breaking out like it did during the COVID days. So it's all about the long-term plan and how you want to handle it. Okay, and number three, it's going to be understand that there's no perfect timing to this. If you're going to buy on the dip, you're basically catching a falling knife and you're trying to basically capture better cost basis on these stocks while they're down. And so typically what I look for is somewhere between a 15 and 20% drop from the high, and then I watch it for a little bit, then I put money to work. I may not do it right away, and I've been rewarded with this patience. I watch these stocks for a while. I see that they kind of flatten out after going down. And then the next little dip or the next movement, either way, if it goes up a little bit, that's fine. It's already down at that point. I'll start buying partial shares or a whole share and start working on a position and start planning it out long term in terms of how much I can put towards these stocks. And, I get to a point where you have over 10 different symbols that you're trading. It can be a little overwhelming. So depending on your trading style, keep it to something that you can manage that doesn't stress you out. Okay, number four, overall sector or market sell-off in general. So is there just basically negative sentiment in the market in general, or is it specific to the industry that it's in? So is it technology, pharmaceutical, financial? What sector is it in? See what's happening with the other stocks related to it. Again, single stock company, you have a number of things that could be affecting it. And you want to make sure that it's not related to a business scandal, accounting fraud, or something that an executive did that's going to bring major media attention. You just want to see if basically the mentality of the market has shifted and is not in favor of something that was once considered hot. And you're basically buying it on the dip, but you're going to do it on the regular. So in some ways, this is similar mentality to what you would do in a 401k. When you put money aside on a regular interval, you're buying mutual funds every couple weeks based off your paycheck. So you want to use the same mentality and develop the schedule that I talked about earlier, but you want to stay in these stocks and keep buying, okay? Number 5, think in years, but instead of weeks. You know, we're not looking for something to turn around immediately. We're thinking about years down the line. And mainly the reason why I do this is because I'm looking for the long-term capital gain, because you get less taxes on the federal side. So, you know, I did a video on taxes and I did a video on volatility, cutting both ways. So if any of this interests you, please check out those videos and you can find out more about that. But, you know, basically I want to be in these stocks and collect dividends for a while and, you know, participate in the recovery when it comes back. And in my experience, sometimes it could be as short as a year. Sometimes it could be even longer, like up to 5 years. And then sometimes you do lose and the stock doesn't really come back. So far my track record is pretty good. I'm at like an 85 to 90% rate of, you know, overall wins and really turning that money over with significant gains, somewhere between 30 and 50%, and sometimes even more, doubling or tripling the investment. So, you know, it really depends on your patience and how you can hold out on these things. And the main thing is you want to stay solvent. You don't want to worry about your financial commitments for the month that you have to pay. So only do this with extra money that you can afford to keep tied up for a while. That's how I look at it. Okay, number 6, be ready to buy more. You know, you bought this for a reason. If you see it going down, buy some more. You know, I try to think of it like a sale at a store. If it's something that I buy all the time, let's say it's a frozen pizza that I spend $6 on to get at the grocery store, but this week it's on sale for $4. Does that take away enjoyment from the pizza that I had a few weeks earlier at the higher price? Or do I maybe buy 2 when I see it for $4? And so that's the way I think about it. You know, don't beat yourself up for paying a little bit more in the past. Just keep that process going. And if possible, even gamify it a little bit, you know, just a little bit. Not that it stresses you out, but if you could put an extra little chunk of money into your trading account and buy on the dip, that's also brought me a lot of success. All right, here, and number 7 is just basically tying into all this, is just developing a sense of long-term patience. And this is where you don't get frustrated. You see every opportunity on a dip where the stock goes down as another chance for you to buy more shares. And, you know, that just goes into developing an investor mindset versus a trader. Traders looking to turn that stock around really quick, whereas an investor can see through all that for the long term. Okay, and my final here is a bonus tip. Basically only do this with a portion of your stock holdings. You know, I mainly invest in a number of stocks, but you know, a lot of them I hold very, very long term. But when you're trying to buy on the dip, sometimes you can't time it perfectly. Excuse the chainsaw in the background. But you know, you're mainly going to want to do this with a, you know, my opinion is do this for like a 1 to 2 year time frame. And if it doesn't work out and it takes longer, that's fine. But I get enough of these going and I have a 1 to 3 year time frame. I can cash out some of these positions, collect the gains, collect the dividends, and apply that towards, you know, a property tax or another larger bill that I may have. And it works out great because I invest $800 and I cash out at $1,200 and I pay off my property tax with that money. So that's how I do it. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anything that you feel I missed, please let me know. But I just wanted to cover this while the market was selling off a little bit, and I hope this helps you out. All right, guys, well, we'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like and subscribe. Thanks again. Bye-bye.